Hello, everyone. My name is JD Calderon, and this is Indie Comics Explained. And yet again, I brought another fantastic group of independent comic book creators. Now, this group is a little bit extra special because this group is comprised of my co-hosts galore, because that's all they are. They're just all my co-hosts, and they're all awesome. So let's start with the best one of them all.
It's like the cereal, right? Oops, all co-hosts. Hello, everyone. My name is Daphne Lage, and I'm a cartoonist, illustrator, and comic book artist from New York. I have been making comics with this guy since 1992, and we are known for our furry fantasy adventure Tall Tales, and I am known for my medieval fantasy drama, Eagle Raven, Heir of the First Unicorn. You can read more about them and read them for free at my website at egoworks.com, EGOWORKS.
All right. Normally, I'd bring on the other guy, but I'm gonna bring him in the way they showed up. So he has to wait in line. So instead, we have the extra special Mr. Tom Hutchison.
What's up, guys? Tom Hutchison, writer, publisher, art director, all things Big Dog Inc.'s 15-year anniversary for us this year. Got off to a little stunted start, but we're back here in 3 weeks. We'll be launching Penny for Your Soul for the 15-year anniversary, and then rolling into August for our first ever omnibus, collecting our first 4 volumes of The Legend of Oz, The Wicked West.
Cool. Now we have Marcus. How are you, sir?
How's it going, guys? Always good to be on. I am Marcus McNeal, editor-in-chief of Odyssey Comics and Paradox Entertainment, and always a pleasure to be here and be a co-host on these shenanigans.
All right. And making his return.
Yes, I had this whole intro plan, but your opening just like knocked it out of me. Our great co. I mean, it was trying to capitalize on your opening. It's amazing. It's amazing. I can't follow that up. I can't. But everybody knows who I am. They know who this is. The guy who carries the load.
Oh my God!
They carry this, baby. All right, on these shoulders here. No, J.D. Rosario from Unstoppable Comics. Been making books not as long as most of these people, but since 2008, and I'm here, just making more stuff and chilling with these guys. What's up, everybody?
What's up? Next up,
Newbie, 2008. Newbie.
I know.
Full on infant.
I'm really glad Daphne's on the panel tonight because I know JD wanted to use the expression "ugly old farts," and now
Get out.
Randy Zimmerman. I've been doing comics since the mid '80s. Let's just call it that. We're going to have a 40th anniversary omnibus of Tales from the Anniverse available at the end of this year. No matter what. It's just going to happen. I've already seen Sue's cover for volume 2. It's fantastic. And there'll be original pages and all of the old Anniversary stuff and a bunch of production stuff. And we'll have a 3-volume set. But in the meantime, I wrote the adaptation of the Shadow Kingdom that we printed a number of different formats for. And we're currently continuing those characters, which is Cull and Brule from Robert E. Howard onto the Atlantean, and telling original stories with them, having a blast writing. Though I've probably learned more about writing in the last 6 to 8 months than I have my entire previous time.
Well,
and just having a blast doing it, and hope you get to read it. I'm really proud of it.
Do you already see he's showing us up? He's already showing. He's just like, here, look, here's my book. I have my book. Look at my book.
You've got books. You've got tons of. We all have a lot of books.
Yeah, so. But you're the only one that was prepared to show something. We're all sitting here like, hey, look at me. And you're like, no, look at my book.
That's because I do 2 podcasts all the time. I got them sitting right here next to this. I didn't have a chance. I haven't mentioned the fact that the Shadow Kingdom's out in a beautiful hardcover color edition yet, though, and available at Barnes & Noble and Amazon and criticalblast.com. And it's a gorgeous, gorgeous piece of work. It's just fantastic. Even though I had a hand in it, it's still really pretty.
There you go.
There we are.
My shit is close.
And last but certainly not least, Mr. C. Michael Lanning, my other partner in crime.
Yeah,
there we are.
Yeah. See, Michael Lanning, I've done art with at least 2 guys up there in the corner. for Magi's Grace and Arrow Comics. And yeah,
Good, Mark.
sometimes, and I'm the guy that runs away when JD Rosario decides to throw his load on somebody. So
You've been throwing your load, JD. What the heck?
Yeah, I heard the rumors, but I just assumed they weren't.
With this type of show.
Hey, circle gets the square. You know what I mean?
There we are.
Does your wife know? That's what I want to know.
How do you think I landed her? You know what I mean? I was like, hey, baby.
Oh boy, when we see that frying pan shootout, bro, it's gonna be horrible.
If the screen goes dark, it's not because I did it. Just like
What would be hilarious if she just hit you in the pan, you fell over, and she took your seat. She just got on the show.
I appreciate the laugh I got from Randy. Thank you. That meant a lot.
I could just see a pair of hands coming up. Actually,
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, usually we save it for tomorrow.
yeah, there we are.
Yeah. All right, everybody. So we've all seen the show question, right? So we're gonna talk about promotion.
What?
How much is enough,
Okay, what you think?
right? And when does the ROI? Oh yeah, how much is enough? How much is not enough? And when does the ROI run out? Right?
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, man. Michael, you're in the hot seat, sir.
As
Get
far
that
as
bottom
like,
square.
how much is enough? Stop posting it every hour for one. But I think it also kind of depends on how you promote too. Please, one thing that I remember seeing back in 2020, and it might have died off, is stop putting your fucking books on memes. That's annoying as hell. Oh my gosh, like that doesn't make me want to buy your book, man. It just doesn't. I'm sorry. Stop doing that. I think, you don't want to spam your feed on anything constantly all day. At least, maybe once in the morning, once at night. But if you continue to spam your feed, they're gonna block you because you're spam. That's it. You don't want to be that. And of course, it also depends on how you market it as well. Like I said, don't do the memes. Don't make sure that whatever you're marketing is clear. Make sure that you understand what it is. Don't just throw a name up there. I know we had one guy tried this marketing thing constantly with roach balls, constantly going in the chat and saying that. And then we had that other idiot that kept doing pigtails. He knows who I'm talking about. Kept trying to put that in the comments and shit. Don't do that shit either. Be respectful to other people's space, especially. Yeah, so I don't know if that answered the question, but that's how I feel. So,
I like that.
No, but it was obvious you have beef with people.
you know what? After tonight, I just don't give a shit anymore. That's how it goes down.
Watch your feet. Lanning's dropping bombs, baby. He's dropping them names like bombs.
You just had a birthday.
Right.
Is that what it is?
That's right. He doesn't know. He already blocked me anyway last time I was on the show. So Pigtails doesn't even care anymore.
There you go.
I don't know who Pigtails is, but I know the Roach Balls thing.
Oh, not that it rhymes with Barry, if you really want to know.
Let's not. No, let's not.
All right. So Marcus, how you feeling about it?
I'm of the mindset of a lot of people who are probably in our space, which is that I fucking hate being online. And if I could do it, absolutely, literally the only reason I even have a Facebook anymore is to do this. So if I could just not do it, that'd be great. So I try to be very strategic because there's, of course, the methodology of spamming your links everywhere and things like that. But there's also the methodology of, I try to think about it in terms of really the sort of whoever I'm engaging with, sort of taking them along the journey of the project. So of course, talk about it before it comes out, when it's live on Kickstarter, whatever's going on, as we're unlocking things. My favorite thing to do now, mid-campaign drops, it gives me basically a second launch, a new way to engage with both backers and then people elsewhere to find more people who maybe hadn't seen the initial run-up that we did and say, hey, we got this new thing, we got a cover we just revealed, something in the back pocket to keep the conversation fresh. to keep you fresh. Just make sure you're not throwing out the same covers all the time, the same images, everything like that. Also coordinate that to whoever's on your email list, subscribers, everything like that. And even when it comes to that side, I'm like, announcement when we launch, when we're funded, or we're about to fund, and then when things are coming to a close, 3 emails, that's it. Just keep it really, really streamlined. And then anything that's the gaps in between, I like advertising. I reserve, $150, $200, be running social media ads because I just let it do the work for me. And try to make sure that I intelligently build things, and not just like set and forget it, because you can't, especially with Facebook. You have to be paying attention to the ads breaking and doing things that you did not set them up to do, and doing the maintenance on them, switch them up a little bit, maybe do some A/B testing, but pretty much just run it like that, and then save myself a lot of frustration and tired thumbs repeatedly typing things out or copy and pasting the same thing and dropping it everywhere. I found that that's the best method for how I like to communicate. It hasn't hurt the campaigns at all. It's only helped, and I think kind of keeps things at a level where, I'm not getting tired of hearing myself, because I think that's typically where a lot of people's cut off. When I'm getting tired of talking about something, then that means everybody else probably got tired of hearing about it like 2 weeks ago. So if I'm staying fresh in the way that I'm approaching it, then the hope is that everybody engages with it in a fresh way too.
All right, cool. Mr. J, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm agreeing with Lanning also when he said, don't spam the feed, right? You don't saturate it, because at the same time, what else are you doing, right? I mean, are you focusing on the next stuff that's coming out? But when do you start promoting it? You start promoting the new book before the previous campaign ends, right? You start giving those heads up. You start letting them know, hey, this is what's coming up next as the current campaign is closing out. Maybe one in the day, one in the night, but also when you're running out of money, that's when it's too much, right? When you're spending too much money on Facebook ads and the backer kit launch and the I got hooked on it. I'm not going to say I didn't get caught up on it, paying for ads on other people's live streams. When they don't provide links that goes back to your campaigns, kind of defeats the purpose of knowing where the backers are coming from. When does the ROI run out? I don't know. Has the ROI run out on Kraft macaroni and cheese? I mean, they don't promote anymore, right? But that's a brand name that, okay, you see it, you're going to fucking... I'm not a Velveeta guy. Sorry.
But that's different, though. People see that and they're going to go buy it. People are not going to see Shield the Interceptor and go buy that.
Absolutely right. Yeah, absolutely
that's
right.
Difference.
But it's like, all right, how many email campaign sites are we paying for, right? The backer kit pre-launch thing, your own email thing, your Patreon thing, your Substack thing, even though some of those, they feed into, but it's like, how much do you invest on that stuff, right? I mean, where do you find the line between investing on the promotion and investing on the work that's going to get done, right? When is it too much? When you've used every panel of every page on the book to promote the current book. That's when it's too much.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Randy, what are your thoughts?
I agree with everybody here. Basically, there is such a thing as too much, and I'm not sure right exactly where that line goes, but my tolerance is getting lower and lower the older I get. So, be careful. I tried. I've tried a number of different marketing things over the years, and honestly, haven't been happy with any of them. So. I'm here to learn just as much as we're here to talk. So
hell yeah.
All right.
There we go.
Cool. Tom, what are you thinking?
So it doesn't matter what you do, how much you do, it's never enough.
Yeah.
It's also always too much at the same time. Okay. Like we talked about, like the C said, like somebody will block you, right? But here's the thing. Somebody's going to block you for posting about your book. They weren't buying your book anyway. Fuck them.
Yeah.
Bye-bye. Not interested. I would much rather overdo it and have people be like, oh God, that thing again. And still be buying my book or be aware of it than, do it not enough and people going, oh, I didn't even know it happened, which still happens, even now. We still get the day after, literally the day after we did my last one, I had somebody go, oh, I missed it. I'm like, yo, dude, come on. I can't help you. I can't do any more, possibly. So
yes, you can.
Well, then that's what I'm saying. Yes, you can. You can keep going. You can keep going. So that's the thing. It's like I think you have to keep going kind of all the time, but also like Marcus was saying, the more strategic you are with what you're posting, the better as well. And if you can take them through the not so much through the campaign, but through the time period of it. Like you got 3 weeks, you have 3 weeks. So in the first week, you want to do this. In the second week, you want to do this. In the third week, you want to do this. Obviously, whenever you hit milestones, you want to tell people milestones. Hey, we hit a stretch goal, whatever. That's the strategic aspect of it that you do want to have. Going down to what C said earlier about the memes, I agree with him conceptually. I don't need to see you doing Arnold Schwarzenegger memes going, get through the Kickstarter, like irrelevant, pointless nonsense. Yeah. But if you have some sort of a tie-in to some sort of a meme, like if your content, your genre, whatever, whether horror and you want to tie it into a vampire thing, whatever, you want to use Dracula, that's better. But it's sort of like homages, right? We understand the purpose. They're there to catch the eye in an instant because people are seeing a recognizable thing. But some of that stuff gets overdone and it just becomes static. So go deep cuts on your meme marketing. Find something that isn't overdone, but that can still help you in your genre, in your little package of whatever it is that you're doing. Because those things work, and that's why people keep doing them. They immediately attach to, oh, I know what that is. Oh, but I don't know what is happening here, and it makes them look. So I think there's a balance for that kind of stuff. ROI for me, I don't pay for anything. I don't do ads. I don't do any of that kind of stuff. So monetarily, there's no ROI for me. Everything is time, which is still money for me. So the ROI for me, I mean, it's like, there's only so much time I even have to devote to, like, what do I want to do today for this campaign? So for me, it's like I post generally in the morning, give it to all the groups that I do. So it's kind of out there and floating around all day. And then if during the day something else happens, I don't go back into the groups and flood it again. It's just like, then it's on my page, the Big Dog Inc. page, wherever else I have pages, and it's like, oh, we hit a stretch goal, we hit a thing, here's a bonus thing that's happening or whatever. So when you're promoting your own campaign in the comments of other people, 100%. Yeah. Unless the group is telling you to do it, unless the host is like, hey, post your links, like we want it, don't be coming in there and be dropping that stuff. It's 100%. That's etiquette. Yep. 100%. But then the ROI is just like, for me, I used to do tons of, these types of shows and stuff and bouncing around all kinds of people. And it was like, Jesus Christ, I'm doing like 5 of these things a week for 4 weeks, and I wasn't seeing the ROI from it. And so that's where I started to be like, you know what? I don't think I need to do this much, because I think if I'm, again, strategic, I'm in the right places, I'm on the right shows, particularly for that brand. So like if you're doing a horror show or a horror comic, go get on a horror podcast, right? Like a specific horror podcast, not just like more comic podcasts. Like, oh, let me go to a horror thing. You got a kaiju thing, go talk to Godzilla people if you can, you know what I mean? So again, the more strategic and direct you can be with your time or your money, if you want to do ads and stuff, that's where it's going to help you out the most, I think.
All right, cool. Daphne, what are your thoughts?
I hate it. There never was a time I didn't hate it. And I hate it even more now. I've gotten to a point where I'm pretty much just marketing to make sure that my regulars know that I'm still putting out books and having a Kickstarter. Because I'm just at a point where it's like, being strategic is just better. And the more focused I am in my marketing or what little that I do, and honestly, it's like I'm at a point now where I do as little as possible, because like I said, now it's like I'm just like, okay, look, I'm still alive, I'm still here. But honestly, if there was a way I can go full Barbara Streisand and only show up when I'm doing a Kickstarter, I would. But honestly, it's like I really do think I'm at a point where I've probably hit my ceiling, and I'm not willing to do much after this to kind of like try to like break through that ceiling, especially since it just feels like like I need like it's actually money that's the problem, to push forward proper marketing, rather than, oh, I didn't post here, I didn't post there. I would rather do the work than try to like massage a genre forum into finally allowing me to talk about my book. So it's like for me, it's like I'm just accepting that this is where I'm at, and I'm not interested in doing the extra work to kind of build from there, because like, you know what, I'd rather just finish my book and just call it a day. Just do the Kickstarters and just move on creatively from that. Then I was just watching this video of an author, how she had spent the last month trying to figure out TikTok, and the amount of work that she had to put in to get like barely any traction. It's like, nah, you know what? It's like, no, I'm not going to fight these platforms who it's like they need you to make content for them to benefit, but they will do everything to make sure that you don't benefit.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, you know what? I'm not interested in playing this game. And if it means that my Kickstarters are like, okay, I get like between 130 and 150 people, and that's it. You know what? I'm good. I'm okay with that. If anything happens above that, it's like, it's gravy. But it's like, you know what? I have way too much work to do, that I would rather put that effort into the actual work than on something as annoying as marketing, and just waste a lot of time with that and try to fight an algorithm that was never built to benefit me to begin with. So I'm okay with that. So
Cake's ready.
All right, cool. For myself, I asked the question because, I've discussed this with Jay privately. I've discussed it with Daphne privately. And it's like, we've been doing this now for going on 5 years, doing these podcasts, doing these shows, right? And I think all of us at some level or another has hit a ceiling financially on Kickstarter. Okay. So I think, there is room to grow, but it's so incremental, it's not even funny. And then the roller coaster ride you play from campaign to campaign, it eats away at
not
that.
linear,
yeah.
Right. So it's like, you're doing 4,000 on one, 3,500 on another, 2,500 on another, 6,000 on another, so on and so forth. You're playing this crazy roller coaster, right? And it's like, how far are we getting? We're doing these shows because, in the truth, the reason I started these shows is because I like talking to other creators. I like talking to all you guys. All you guys are cool people. Mm-hmm. You guys are in my sphere. We're all geeks of the same cut from the same cloth on some level, right? So that's why, I started this, right? Not really to promote, right? And what do they tell you to promote? They say, oh, be personable. I always post stuff up about the books I buy, some random ass toy I get, all that different things. But has it garnered me 10 million people? No. But what does garner you 10 million people? Oh, I'm going to shit post about this person. I'm going to pick a fight with this person. I'm going to, talk garbage about this other person. And then I'm going to do a video about it for 2 hours. Right. And that's what garners you interest, because the algorithm loves controversy and, shit posts.
Of course.
Right.
Dude, come on. Jerry Springer is one of the most popular shows of all time because of that very thing, dude. And it sucks. I know it fucking sucks.
Right. You understand? And then you have, the obvious thing where it's just like you have creators, they're out there, they say, oh, you should do this. You should just, I personally think it's gotten to a point where these creators say these things just so you engage with them. So that you remember their campaign, so you go pledge to their fucking campaign.
That's the one,
right?
That's the one that stings. The way the memes sting Lanning. That one. Oh, what do you guys think? It's blah 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 today. Shut the fuck up. Shut up.
Exactly. And it's just and that's the ridiculous part about it. And the thing is the ROI is like look at all the time we've spent in these shows. If I had put And listen, I'm not saying I didn't want to do these shows. I want to do these shows because, like I said, I like talking to everybody. But think about it. If we have added all the hours we put into all these shows together and just broke that down to an hourly wage that we normally make, we'd be like, shit.
Yeah, of course.
We'd have been, what, a couple 100,000 more ahead.
Yeah.
Right? But, but here we are. You understand? Because we like, like I said, I like all you guys. I like talking to everybody. And I think that's cool. And we want to help promote one another, but there has to be another way. And I feel personally, and this is my thing, is Kickstarter. Like I said, there's a ceiling. Now it's time to start looking for other venues to try to like conquer and get into. That's my personal thing for me. You understand? Whether not everybody else, whatever you guys are doing, that's up to you. But I know for myself, I'm like, okay, I've reached here. I'm going to continue to try to climb, but the other places to go. And like I said, that marketing isn't necessarily, I think, best spent on just Kickstarter. I think there are other places to go. And just got to explore them and just do different things, right? Just do different things. And that's what I'm looking towards, just doing something different.
And I think that's what people need to really try to, especially now. And this might go into a question I have later where conventions aren't quite what they used to be. I think this year, especially a lot of people are feeling it in the convention circuit. Yeah, you got to be able to mix things up a little bit. Like you guys follow me, so, you guys know I've been trying to do other things other than just, keeping my nose to the grindstone in terms of just going to conventions and doing this and stuff like that. I'm still doing it, but I'm doing it like, hey, I'm going to do a drawing panel. I'm engaging with people as a completely different avenue. I'm not talking as a publisher or selling books anymore. Now I'm trying to position myself as actually being part of the culture and the community in that regard, and helping the other creators out there and artists and people who want to get into comics, do those things and having more discussions about publishing and everything like that. And weirdly enough, I feel like more has come from doing that than whatever I've tried to do with marketing and email campaigns and advertising and everything like that, because you get introduced to different people. Every time it seems like I step out, I meet another writer, creator, something like that. So now it's starting to become like this larger sphere that I get to operate in, which I think eventually in turn, and I've already seen a couple things because, I keep track of where, our performance on certain campaigns do over, the stretch of that. Once I started making that change, that's when I started seeing things, boost up a little bit. So, I think it was on Iberian where it's like, okay, we were doing consistently like kind of same thing every time that we dropped it. So like the last campaign we had is like, 50% growth on that over, the previous one. And all that is just finding new blood and finding new blood from being more visible in other spaces. And that's all it came down to.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. And that's just it. It's like finding new places to be at other than Facebook.
But then,
and be there sincerely. be there,
of course,
not
yeah.
just trying to take, but
Right. We're limited, guys, in how far we can do that, right?
Oh, naturally.
I mean, you're over there in the West Coast, bro, right?
That's the one benefit I do have is just there's a ton of people here, and there's always something going on.
Tom and Randy are Midwest, so they can branch out left or right if they want, right? They can spread out a little bit more. Lanning, you're where Louisiana, right? Right. So you got like right.
Deep
you got
South.
that southern, right? You get that southern thing locked off if you wanted to, and then the rest of us on that East Coast circuit, right? I've gone all the way down to Puerto Rico, right, to do conventions, right, or driven up
That's
and
a
down.
long drive.
That's a fucking right. I've flown to Puerto Rico, but I've driven all the way down to fucking to Florida and up to Boston, but we're limited with that also, right? How far can we drive? How many times can we fly? How much money can we spend on travel logistics and lodging, and make that ROI come out in the positive area? And
the thing is, though, is that with marketing, if you do, the whole point of marketing is that if you do it correctly or if you do it successfully, you don't need to be there to sell your books.
Okay.
It's like, because it's like if you're going from convention to convention, you're just being a salesperson, with your little suitcase full of, I was like, hi, I would like to show you my comics. But the whole point of marketing is like, the CEO of Coke doesn't have to be in the supermarket to sell Coke. It's like using your mac and cheese thing. It's like this: the CEO of Kraft doesn't have to be in the supermarket to sell mac and cheese.
Right.
Except so if you translate that to comics, for example, Stan Lee doesn't have to be there to sell Spider-Man.
Right. Exactly.
The problem is we all have to be there to sell our own shit because nobody else can do it. We're not at a point where we have that advantage.
Which the thing is that's why it's like, in the end, it's like, if I'm marketing and I still have to be there to sell the book physically, then the marketing is not doing its job. Yeah. And in the end, it's like, that's kind of like, because it's like, I understand that conventions is a completely different audience. But there just comes a point where it's like, you know what? It's like, I'm getting too old to do conventions all the time. And it's like, there comes a point where it's like, look, either the shit has to sell itself, or it's like, I cannot put in the effort, the amount of, let me put it to you this way. We didn't all of a sudden become marketing experts on Tenchi.
Right.
It's like, we had a 6-figure campaign. We didn't all of a sudden, it's like, oh my God, we're marketing experts because we now have a 6-figure campaign. No, it's like Tenchi. It's like it didn't have it didn't even need, and like it raised the first $50,000 on its own by word of mouth alone. Mm-hmm. And it's like, and I'm like going, because I have to tell you, it's like that campaign was a complete mind fuck for me, because it's like, I'm like going, there is no planet where I could have gotten like any type of momentum like that on my campaign, no matter what I did on my own. Because in the end, the machine that was needed in order to do those types of numbers, I mean, we just don't have, and that's kind of like, in the end, it's like where I came to the conclusion that it's like, you know what, I'd rather put my energy elsewhere. If it means that my campaigns remain small, I just have to accept that, because the reality of what it actually takes to have these, to be able to do like anything near those types of numbers is, no, we don't have it. And I certainly don't have it.
Well, Tenchi is a 30-year-old brand, though, that's been around for a long time.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
all of the stuff that we're doing in 30 years time, who knows what it could end up being, but it was also multimedia and had other shit going on for it.
Like I said,
So,
it had a machine behind it.
Right. But it has a 30-year machine. Like for me, like, we almost had Legend of Oz sold as a TV show. That would have changed our machine. Right. When that happened. So I think the key here to, at least in the convention conversation, is, and particularly now, because we are in what I call a creator economy. Stuff doesn't sell because of what it is. Stuff sells because there's a name attached to it. Whether it's somebody from Marvel comes to Image and does a book, Scott Snyder and these guys, that's how the stuff is marketed. It's like, oh my God, Scott Snyder's doing a book at Image. That's it. You don't even need to know what it is anymore. It's give me Scott Snyder's book. Right.
If Mr. Beast came out with a comic tomorrow, it would be the best-selling comic of all time, without anybody it could be blank pages. But just the fact.
I'm curious to see what's happening. You guys heard Post Malone has a comic with Vault?
Yeah. Really?
Yeah. So Post Malone has a comic book coming out through Vault Comics. So just like we're talking about, here's a guy that has a name.
Right.
We'll see what happens with it. But
that comic is going to sell regardless of
what was that guy 2 years ago that did the 2 million on PayPal? What's his name?
Cool.
Oh yeah, he was like a fantasy writer. I don't know his name.
No. He was a rapper. The Ripperverse. There we go.
Oh no, he does that himself. He doesn't do that on Kickstarter.
His own website.
Right.
But again, that's the same thing. He's a guy who built an audience over a million years, doing other things, by the way.
And he activated them.
And then he activated them to do a thing. Yes. So that's the thing. That's the creator economy that we're in. You have to become valuable in and of yourself. Right. And then once you're valuable, you go, now give me $2 million.
Right. So the secret, so the marketing secret is be famous.
Yeah, it's yourself. That's what I'm saying.
Be famous, and then you'll be able to sell your book.
That's right. Build yourself. But we're now in the economy that allows you to do it too. But like you said, when you're talking about learning how all this shit works, that's going to make people's brains explode. Trying to learn TikTok and all that kind of thing. Right. I'm the same way. I'm like, I can't even comprehend what I need to do to make like a real TikTok thing. And the ROI, that we're talking about here is minuscule if you can't figure out a way to, sort of tie yourself in to the community. And the comic book community on TikTok is like, blah. I watch big time names on TikTok just get like no reactions.
Right. And that was the thing that the lady had said too. The problem that she really came across on TikTok is that any little success that you have is unrepeatable.
Yes.
So it's like something could have worked, right? And then it's like if you try to do it again, it completely flops. Like there is absolutely no consistency to what works in terms of marketing.
And this is the things that I go through too, because you guys know, like I do e-commerce and my day job, and I'm managing things for like 4 different like companies under the same umbrella, basically at this point in time. And the marketing is a lot of that. Spending on advertising, spending on Amazon ads, TikTok. We had one of our items go viral on TikTok like a few years ago. Went absolutely apeshit. And of course, the first thing the company wants to do is, can we repeat that? We make all this investment into influencers and making videos and things like that and all this content, and never, ever, ever scraped anything close to what that one organic viral moment did again. You can't repeat it. It's like catching lightning in a bottle. We hear that phrase all the time, but it really does come down to that. And sometimes you can ride that wave, you can sustain it a little bit longer, but in this era that we're in, and that's the tough thing, in which, when I see and I talk to people who, go on all these marketing tangents and do these whole big threads and everything like that. All that is well and good for putting things into your toolbox. You want to have those tools. Absolutely, 100%. But whether you fucking build like something that can just take off in a rocket ship or it just sputters out, those are usually things that's going to be out of control. You can do absolutely everything right in this space and have 0 effect.
So are we spending too much time trying to figure out the machine and not figure out how to build our own content?
Yes. Yes, this is what I'm
Yeah.
trying to tell you. Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Because, and this is what drives me crazy about a lot of shows too. This show is unique because it's built for creators to talk about creating and so on. But there's way too many shows that are just like, hey, Tom's on today and let me show you his Kickstarter. No, stop showing the fucking Kickstarter. Nobody cares. I want to talk to you for 20 minutes. And then the last 10 minutes, we're going to go, Andy's got a Kickstarter. We're going to zip through it in a couple of minutes. If anyone's got a question, hit me up. Otherwise, go look at it yourself. That's the show. It has to be about the people. You can talk about creating, certainly. Where did this come from? What's your inspiration? All that kind of stuff is fine. But you can't just sit there and scroll through Kickstarters endlessly. Nobody cares. It has to be about the people that are making it, where it came from, where did you come from, what's your story to getting into comics, all of that kind of stuff. Why do you like King Kong? What's your connection to it? You have to connect the creator to the consumer, and you don't do that by endlessly scrolling through Kickstarters. You can do a quick little 1 minute on a Kickstarter, and you should be out. That's it. You're done. Right. Again, JD's shows and even Rosario on Friday, they're a little different because we're here to talk about what we're all doing. So this is a little bit different. But so many of these shows should be personality shows and letting people learn who these people are. But all they do is roll through Kickstarters endlessly. So
it's so funny too, Tom, thinking about that, because I mean that's how talk shows have been for forever.
Yes,
you don't come on Johnny Carson, he shows the whole movie that you're starring in. No, you shoot the shit. Yeah. Oh my God, I just aged myself a little bit too. You shoot the shit, have some laughs, everything like that. You show.
Daphne mentioned Barbara Streisand before.
Yeah.
There you go.
Good.
Well, that's why I like doing the podcasts that I do, because we look at comics, analyze comics, and then talk about our stuff just sparingly at the beginning, at the end. Hey, I'm doing this, we're doing that, or take a look at this, and then we're out the door. But most of the time, it's Russ, it's Glenn, and it's myself going through some just iconic work and analyzing it, looking at the techniques, looking at the composition, talking about how to make comics, because we love the art form so much. And the stuff that we've looked at, I consider to be the best of the best stuff that we can find. And it's just a blast to do. And I don't mind spending 2 hours talking to friends. I don't consider that I'm out there hawking, my stuff all the time by doing that. And we're talking about stuff that I can talk about for hours. Mm-hmm. So
yeah,
that's why I love doing the podcasts I do.
But sometimes, Randy, it's like being in the woods. And sometimes it's like being in the Phelan woods. So
what do we do right after I go through that rant? JD shows a fucking Kickstarter. And all of our watchers are gone.
But they do come back afterwards.
One of the two people that are watching.
They do come back. They do come back. They just wait until Jose finishes the Kickstarter, and then they come back.
Just fast forward.
Bathroom breaks.
Yeah. Quick.
But you know what?
Let's go.
This is a good example though. So let's break this down, because as you can see on the screen, this is an Odyssey Comics campaign. This is headed up by the writer of Phelan Wood, Ton, and I turned the campaigns over to him. He would like to, do everything on his own now as far as the campaign goes. That's cool with me, because I always tell people, usually, yes, I run the campaigns for all the stuff that Odyssey publishes, but it is not a requirement. Like, everybody is more than welcome to do their own campaigns, but Kickstarter's tough and it's stressful. So usually people make me carry that weight instead of them doing it themselves. But in this sort of situation, we were already doing Phelan Wood. We already had underneath us. Tom wanted to do it, and we were talking about building things up. And a lot of what we did on the previous campaigns was incorporating role playing. So I turned a lot to the tabletop, and Dungeons and Dragons community. This book itself is inspired by Dungeons and Dragons. So that was a 100% on brand thing to do. And once you have that, I could pluck that audience and just give it to an entirely different creator. And now to them, it doesn't matter if Odyssey is putting it out, or Ton is putting it out, or the artist themselves is putting it out. It will fund and it will do what it needs to do, no matter who is doing it, because that's the momentum that you build from being able to incorporate other things and bring other fandoms and things like that to it. It has its own brand that can transmute, whether it's with Odyssey or it's with Tom. So this was an important thing for me to show, just in regards to that. because for him doing his first ever campaign and being able to come out funded, day one, and be in a situation where he's going to have a successful campaign. We're halfway through the campaign right now. He's still got a lot more he can do. And I look at his numbers. I helped him with the campaign. Of course, I advised him everything. I helped design the campaign. I got stuff together for him. But it's going to be something to where he's going to be able to take that off, and now he's building that. He's going to be able to have his own success completely independent of me. And that's that's a massive thing to a creator in this space, is being able to do that. So, yeah. But in other terms, this is Phelan Wood number 3, A Demon's Price. This is the last issue of our Phelan Wood miniseries. We've had it in the can for a while. It's finally ready to go. This follows the story of a young thief named Ren who's trying to save his father's soul from being trapped in the region known as Phelan Wood, which is kind of like an ethereal in-between space of life and death. This charts the final issue where him and his party finally gets the opportunity to do that and realize that it's not going to be quite as easy as they thought, and what they do has to come at a price, hence the title. So this one, we got the team of Ton, of course, Avery Tart, who's the artist on the project, Brian Magne, who's the colorist, Marco Della Verde, who is the letterer. We got a few different things we're offering. Obviously, our main cover is going to be one. Then a variant cover by Marcelo Sanchez, who was one of the original concept artists for the book. We got one for him. And then Jefferson Szynski, he came in. He did the one that we just rolled out with the 2 girls on it. So in this campaign, you'll be able to get those 3. You're going to be able to get, of course, Phelan Wood 1 and 2, all the covers that we have for those. Then you also get our tabletop RPG modules. The first one I helped get together. I'm doing it again on the second one, so I'm still contributing in that way. You get that cover too from yours truly. It's not often I get to dust the iPad off and do some artwork, but this is one of the things that gives me the opportunity to do that. So we'll have all new 24-page campaign that everyone will be able to get on there and actually play, in your tabletop campaign, the story of Phelan Wood and bring you into that universe rather than just reading it. And we try to keep it pretty dynamic. There's some pretty cool stuff in there too. It's not just like a carbon copy of what you see in the book. There's going to be different mechanics that really make some challenging gameplay. And so far, everybody's really liked it. We brought it back. And now it's probably something that we could probably do Phelan Wood tabletops just completely independently of this comic, and then be doing campaigns for those too, and then continue to build on that. So it's going well so far, and yeah, we'll come back with more stuff as long as people's interested. But this story itself concludes with this.
All right, very nice. So you got 12 days? You're already funded, so your guys in good shape. Very nice.
Can I let me ask you a question to Marcus based on what's happened so far tonight? The tabletop stuff, dude. Are you guys promoting in tabletop live streams, podcasts, events? Right? We talked about the crossover stuff, right? Are you bringing people from those areas?
We do in terms of like where we're engaging with people online, but not quite at the level yet where we're going to be like entering those live spaces. If you go to the bottom, you see that that's in the works. So
okay.
Odyssey Paradox, I'm also developing an entire standalone series of Pod E-based books with our series that's going to be coming out called Eldalore. You guys who might follow might have seen me post images and stuff from it already. So that's going to be like our big pivot into that space.
All right, but you got it there, right? We're talking about, right? When is enough? When is the ROI? Shouldn't you start talking to some of those people now about it? The reason I'm bringing this up, right? Again, based on tonight's thing, and Tom Calderon know from Friday night, I was flip-flopping on going to this event, this toy convention, in a few weeks, right? But yesterday and what we're talking about today is solidifying that I should go to that event because that's the crossover that will boost me over here, right? That's introducing me to a brand new audience like this tabletop stuff should be doing for you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's going to be a plan. But when you enter, especially something like the tabletop space, you got to come with guns loaded. We have things like miniatures, everything like that. But I'm on a very certain path right now. Like my schedule's like locked in, and I got 0 time to be making any sort of pivot to like go to tabletop conventions, anything like that. Plus, I'm also working to get Elder Lore finished. So for me, like right now, not like long term, but just in this space that we are right now, while the campaign is live, doesn't make a whole lot of sense for me to do that because all my guns are kind of like required to get the things done that we need to get done now. And then when we have Elder Lore and in combination with what we're doing with Valen Wood, we're going to have all that much more effective of a presence when we do make that pivot. And then I'll be able to also come into those spaces in earnest, like, hey, yeah, we have this comic related thing that we're doing, but we also have this standalone thing that is just tabletop, just gaming, that we're involved with too, and we're building things up to that.
Let me bring that then to Daphne, right? Daphne, a few weeks ago, you went to the Adult Furry Convention.
Well,
right?
it wasn't. Well, yeah, pretty much.
Some-
That's how I
excuse me.
describe it. Yeah.
Excuse me, something along those lines, right?
Yeah,
But
Monsterotica BookCon.
Okay, all right, right? To scout it out, to see if that's something next year
Yeah.
you should get down with, right?
Yeah.
But we already know that somebody like Pat Shan, who tables at the erotica stuff, right?
Mhm.
And there's got to be that some of that bleed over. He's showing firsthand that it is effective. So shouldn't we be doing more of that stuff?
I know a guy who bought a house because he took his Irish comic to a Ren fair. Like,
All
I
right.
mean,
All right.
it's
Right.
crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that, and again,
Alright.
that's the strategic placement of this stuff.
Right.
If you can activate that crowd, if you've
Yeah.
got the right thing, they
Yeah.
will go bananas for it.
Well, you see, because this is the thing too, because it's like I'm already tangentially in that space.
Okay.
I just didn't know it existed until I saw this convention. Now, mind you, it's not a comic book convention; it's a book convention. So these are novels that these are novelists at this place. But what made this convention different was how heavily they work with artists.
Okay.
It's not so, yeah, that is something that I'm looking into because I'm already tangentially doing work like that.
Just adapt your stuff into novels.
Right. Well,
There you go.
I'm not I am writing novels.
There you go.
You know, it's like it's not even yeah, it's like so but also it's a very specific type of novel that these women are into. So you know, but the thing is though is that it's not just about me just like, oh, I'll just buy a table next year and come with whatever I have, because it is a very specific market. And I'm already kind of like dipping my toes in it, it still requires me to prepare
Okay.
actual product for it.
Uh-huh.
It's not like I can just show up with what I have already. There's
Right,
very
exactly what I was
specific things that these people like that I would have to create specifically for. Now, the thing is that I have to ask myself is that, you know, considering the whole thing with marketing, is that my time is limited. So
Right.
how much of that work am I willing to do to cater to that market in the hopes that I can actually convert that audience into, you know, towards my books. Because okay, they like the G.I. Joe convention. Now,
Yeah.
the fact that you had said that you were kind of on the were you on the fence with it, where it's like you were kind of
100
think
I was off the fence. I was off
Right.
the fence because of the whole tariff situation.
right?
Right. I
Now-
mean, I was
Right.
off.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
Guys, hold on, because we got way into the weeds and like, you know. I just
Well,
wanna
we're talking
make sure-
about marketing, but okay.
No, I know
all
that,
right.
I know that, but I'm just saying, but at the moment, it's gone into a private conversation between two
Ah.
people, right? We got a lot of other people involved.
Okay.
So
Oh, I was
wanna-
going to ask you something though.
No, I know, but I have something to ask myself and see Michael Lanning, because we have our own campaign. It's called Magic.
Oh God, not this again.
Right. So here we
Worst
go.
show
I am
ever.
busy making memes to post this.
So we have issues 1 and 2 of Magi's Grace available. We have a nice cover here by Art Voyager. We have an awesome cover by Mr. Lanning himself. Right. We have another cover by Chompy. We have a bunch of other covers by a bunch of other great people. Pablo Verdugo Munoz, Lena
Oh,
Dye.
I didn't know you got that guy. He's good.
Who?
Pablo Verdugo Munoz.
Yeah. I got.
Yeah.
I've had,
Yeah, because he's working for
Mendoza, right?
Mendoza. Yeah.
I've been stalking Pablo for years.
Yeah.
Long before he's been in this circle. So
Yeah.
so I just finally saw the opportunity. I actually spoke to him. I got a couple of covers out. He's a really cool dude.
Well, great. Yeah. I met
yeah.
him at the con. He was he's very cool. Yeah.
Yeah, nice guy. But yeah, so go check it out. And look, that's the end of that for now. All right, go buy a book. Daphne, ask your question.
Okay, you know what? So let me continue the thought here. Sticking with marketing, consider it. Okay. What common advice did you all follow uncritically until you thought about it? And do you still follow it after thinking about it?
Repeat it again, please. I want to make sure.
What common advice in marketing, in comic book marketing, did you follow blindly without thinking about it until you thought about it? And do you still follow it after thinking about what that advice actually was?
All right, Marcus, you're up.
Whew. This one's tough because I try to get into the habit of not listening to people a lot. Unless there's like somebody I would like, usually of course I'm here and I'm among you guys. I always listen to advice you give or tips and things like that. But I'm talking about like free unsolicited like advice from like strangers and things like that. I think probably one of the biggest sort of things that I really did was I think last year and like sort of the year before that when things were sort of trending in like a certain direction for me of letting other people get in my head and sort of say like, oh, I should be doing this, should be doing more stuff, I should be positioning myself into growth, try to be the next this publisher, to be the next that publisher. And me just kind of like, oh yeah, if it's working out and everything that we're doing seems to have an audience one way or another, and there's a certain quality that our books have that people, let's make that pivot, let's go for it. And I didn't ever stop to think like, is that what I wanted? Is that what I got into this space for, and is that what I created Odyssey for? To be that? And the answer was no. I don't give a flying fuck about being the next film or image or anything like that. I'm trying to make cool shit in the here and now with cool people, and see what works and get some things done and get things done that we're passionate about and that we enjoy. And that's what's first and foremost. If we're making a whole bunch of money doing it, obviously awesome. If we're just scraping by with what we need for every single campaign that we do, awesome too. I'm happy either way. So yeah, I stopped chasing that dangling carrot that's in front of me, or that people made me believe and hallucinate that was in front of me, and started doing things as I wanted to do it and I see fit. And I made that decision that things may come where they may for me personally as a professional and as a creator and person in this comic space. But what I'm doing as far as publishing is to stay small, and the fact that stay small as long as I can. If success and large success comes as a result of that, that's cool. I might decide to just paw things off to somebody else at that point in time and cash up and walk away, because that's not what I'm signing up for. I don't want another large overbearing thing on my life. I got enough of that going on. I mean, if it's enough to take over like my day job and salary and everything like that, cool. But yeah, I'm not chasing any certain markers of success. I have no expectations in this business, in this community. Everything that I come out with, I'm looking at it as a new thing and a new opportunity. So yeah, I'm not gonna listen to anyone anymore, and definitely had that moment for myself where I decided like, yeah, I don't want to be a person trying to come into this space, and we know the names of the publishers that did those same things, and we know where a lot of them are at right now. So I will not be another tombstone in that graveyard trying to reach for that same brass ring. Yeah.
All right, cool. Jay, what are you thinking?
Yeah. So the advice that I had been given was never print in bulk, right? That was the
Holy
advice.
shit.
Motherfuckers are stupid, and they're always gonna be stupid. Oh, I'm sorry, Jay. I interfered with you.
No, hold on. See, all right. So this is my thing, right? Everybody has their thing. Everybody has their thing. This is my thing, right? I was told never print in bulk. Okay, and I did, the fucking the print on demand stuff, right? And I would only print it up maybe 100, 150 copies. And whenever I had to do a convention, I had to go and print up another set. I had to come out of pocket again. I had to waste time. I had to make sure that all my files were correct. I had to make sure that I adapted to this new printer's procedure because the last printer that I used went out of fucking business. All right. So I wasted time. I lost money. Yeah. Am I printed up in bulk? Am I sitting on some of that shit? Fuck yeah. I'm not going to say I'm not. Right. But you know what I also have? I also got a trunk full of copies that I didn't pay for. They were covered in my Kickstarter. So now when somebody wants a business card, well, you know what? Here's my dick. I just show you this book and that book and this book and that book and this book and that book and this book and that book. I don't got to show you a business card. This is what I do.
How many dicks do you have?
I got a lot of dicks.
All right.
I'm one big one.
A whole trunk full of dicks.
I got a whole trunk. But you know, I mean, right? I mean, you go, I drive
Oh,
around.
this is low-hanging fruit, isn't it?
That's what I do, baby. I said to everybody.
That's the other part, not that anyway.
Yeah, right. But that's how I introduce myself, right? And where some people would wonder, you know, they think I'm doing some fanzine, some ash can, right? That I printed it off of the home computer, and they see the professional finish on it. It changes their whole idea of who I am and what I'm doing. It does. It's expanding my credibility outside of the comic book world, because if it happened here, I mean, it'd be a different story. But it's going to sound stupid to people. You could go to this mom and pop ice cream shop over in Main Street, Queens, where they've got classic album covers and different serials from yesterday. But then you also see my books plastered up there, right? And my niece has shown up there not knowing that my stuff was there. And she's got her kids taking pictures in front of my stuff, right? And then she's posting it all over social. She's like, oh, look at, you know, my kid's great uncle, granduncle, whatever you are, the next level up, right? They're here with that stuff. That's a prideful moment for me. Mm-hmm. That wouldn't have happened if I was too precious with that book that I paid $3.50 for with print on demand, right? It was 75 cents for me to have that really nice moment. It's 75 cents for me to introduce myself and my work, my talents to other people, right? It's 75 cents for me to go to a convention, and when I'm at a panel, drop those copies on the chair. So now whenever somebody is bringing up the question towards me in the panel, I can address all of these copies that are sitting there at their table. I mean, at their chair, excuse me. They could pick it up. Oh, this is what Jay's talking about. Hopefully that'll lead back to some sales at the con that I'm at, right? That's one of those unquantifiable moments. That's one of those things we're talking about. The return on investment. Does it pay out? Does it run out? No, not as long as I have all these print on demand copies, all these bulk offset printed copies that I no longer have to pay for because they were already paid for. I got my money back. I've made my money on them. And now when I do these collector's boxes or these mystery boxes, my cost in these mystery boxes and these collector's boxes are not even more than $6 or $7 with all the shit that I'm putting in there. And I'm getting back $25 to $50 a pop.
You're so excited, Jay. You're so excited right now.
I am, because you know what? It doesn't work for this person. It doesn't work for that person. I understand everybody's game is different. Mm-hmm. Right? But that was their unsolicited advice that, like the dick, I just followed along and did, until I went and said, fucking, and did things my own way.
But
yes. Do I have a fucking couch made of fucking offset printed boxes? Yes. I'm not going to deny that. I'm not going to deny that at all. But it still pays off, and it's still continuing to pay off. And answering tonight's topic, yeah, it hasn't run out yet. So it's worked out in my favor.
Fair enough. Randy, what are your thoughts on the question?
Well, I never paid for an ad that I saw a return on investment. And everybody told me I needed to take out ads. You need to take out ads in previews. You need to take out ads on Facebook and all of that. And I've seen nothing except the exact opposite of return on it. And I stopped doing it. So I'm going out and looking at other things and other formats and just trying to get comics out to folks who want to read them as much as I can. And without spending that kind of money down a toilet that, has no return. But I can't tell you how much money I spent in the early 2000s with previews that turned out to be nothing. And all of the runaround that we received and the just nothing come out of it. In fact, it was more negativity than anything because I kept beating my head against the wall with whoever was laying out previews because they kept placing our ad 3 pages away from our listing. And they said that they would get it as close as possible, or they went through and edited it at their whim or who knows what. And I found the 2 things that work for me right now is word of mouth and dependability. So we sit there and do a product that when we run a campaign, we say it's going to be, out in June, it's out in June. That's the big thing that I'm pressing on now. That's because I took somebody's advice a long time ago who said, oh, you got to take out ads, and saw how that worked for me.
Cool.
Tom? Randy, did anybody ever tell you, oh, you need to take out ads, but also here's some good tips to how you should format your ad, how you need to communicate in them? We
looked at all of that. Yeah. And we did what I thought were some really successful, really good looking ads. It just didn't bring any return. And again, it was the place that we were placing them. And in fact, when I ran it on Facebook, it actually crippled me.
Yeah.
When I was doing Flint Comics and Entertainment, I ran a local ad, and Facebook literally went in, smelled the money, crippled my page completely, took a 0 away from all of my visibility. Literally, I went from 3,000 hits to 300 hits within overnight. Once I paid for an ad, and I'd never do it again. No, just they crippled me on their site, and then they kept sending me emails telling me how much more visibility I would get if I paid them for ads.
Yeah. It's organically, I can't get anything on Facebook.
It was terrible
right now. Yeah,
but organically, I did a little local newspaper here that went around the county that was filled with comics and articles and stuff, and I was getting great rapport with an audience. I mean, I'm moving 10,000 units, and I'm getting 3,000. Hits on Facebook, moving it to those folks, or showing stuff off. Here comes a cover that's going to press, and I had people that were literally calling me because I ran my phone number as I had a commercial art business in the paper. They were calling me asking me where the paper was, so I was posting it on Facebook all the time. Here's what the cover looks like. It's gone to press. It's on the stands. Go find it. And my visibility just dropped through the floor when I took out an ad, and they did it on purpose, and they did it to try to get more money out of me. And I am I resentful? Oh, hell yeah. But it was one of the reasons that really deterred me from continuing with the paper, was because I saw how I was treated there, and it literally just shot my traction with everything to do with the publication. So
yeah. A real response to the Philbo who commented and said, FBS is just a money drain equals no sales.
Yeah.
If you don't know what you're doing, 100%. If you're just going and then you're just doing Facebook's recommended setup and just do whatever, they're just going to take your money away.
Yeah.
If you actually know how to tailor advertising, know how to build an audience, know how to target, know how to do A/B testing, know all these, it's a whole fucking thing. Unfortunately, but if you know how to do that, you can do it. I started one on Phelan Wood today. I've spent $6 on it. It's already made $30. So I'm getting the ROI, coming back to it, and that's not even a full day. I launched this hours ago, and it's already pulling in. But that's because I have an audience that I've built up, that I've whittled down. I've done a bunch of these. I know how to do it. I think on Iberian, one of them, I probably spent maybe $50 in advertising, and that got me back like almost $400.
I got
So
infinitely
there's a way
more.
to do it.
I got infinitely more business, and I'm still getting business from my commercial art jobs from running those ads in the newspaper than I ever did running it on any type of social platform.
Right. Now, it's not going to be the same for everything. You know, we have a new color with some pretty girls on it, some boobies. You know, they're not exposed to anything. If I get to throw that out, and yeah, I can tell you what the ROI is on those sort of.
Yeah, but Facebook doesn't like booby ads either. They get really uptight about that stuff.
They can.
I'm not saying that they don't get through, but I know a lot of people that struggle trying to get those things.
There's a certain
and they
level
can actually ban your account.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So you have to be careful. You can't, if it's anything beyond what you would see on, like, you know, a swimsuit ad, don't do it. Yeah, it's just not worth the potential collapse that comes as a result of that.
Yeah, we had a really good community.
It's not going to be good for everything.
We had a really good community running on that page until I took out an ad.
Shit.
Yeah.
So, Tom, what are your thoughts on the question?
So I'm trying to think about when I was ever given advice. This is going to sound really weird, but
it doesn't have to be specific. Like you were given advice, that you heard something that you thought was good advice that you kind of like uncritically took.
Yeah, but
until you realize, like, oh wait.
I honestly don't think, in the context of marketing, I don't think I have ever put myself into a position for somebody to tell me, do it this way. Now, we did ads, we did preview ads, we did stuff like that, but all of that was because we just chose to. It was like, why don't we do this to, you know, create a branding for ourselves? Like when we put our first book in previews, we had, I don't know what they call it, a quarter ad or whatever. It was like a vertical ad down the side of the page. Yeah, it wasn't a half page, but it was like a quarter
column
side thing.
Yeah, quarter page,
column. Yeah. So we did that, and we did end up selling out of our first print of that book. And we did ads semi-regularly in previews throughout our 4 years there before we went over to Aspen. So we had what I think was moderate success with it, because we had books going into the Diamond Top 300 at the time, et cetera, et cetera. Now, that doesn't mean that was because of those ads specifically, but because we were doing them at sort of key moments, like, hey, it's a new book, here's the ad, whatever. Theoretically, there was some help there. But again, that was never advice. It was always just, why don't we try this? Why don't we do this? Let's see what the result is. What I do know, though, is I had 3 very specific times in my entire career where I was told what to do and how to make it work, or this won't work. The first one was when we put the Oz book out. There was a variant guy who wanted to do variants with us, and he wanted to do an EBAS cover. Eric Bass will do it. And I said, yeah, of course, no problem. So he turns in a cover, just the rough, and he's like, so this is the rough, it's kind of like this and this, and then and I was like, yeah, that's fine. And he goes this, and then we'll do a topless version as well. And I said, no. He said, what do you mean, no? I said, no, we're not doing topless books on a Wizard of Oz book. That's not what we're doing in my company. And he says, this is a fairy tale book. This will sell like wildfire. You're leaving money on the table. I said, no, I'm losing money, because if this book comes out and people start Googling it, and that's the cover that comes up every single time, I lose money, because I can't sell this book as a legitimate book. It becomes that cover for all of time. This guy was so pissed off that he dropped out and didn't do the variant covers with us. I then went to EBAS and said, I need a cover. Do me a cover like this. It ends up being one of the best selling covers we've had of all time. Clothing on, by the way. And that was that was the first time I stood up and said no to somebody in sort of in that regard. Like somebody said, you need to do it this way. And I said, fuck you. I'm going to do it my way. The second time was when we first started Kickstarter. Somebody said, who had been doing Kickstarters for a while, mind you, I said, my plan was, we're going to launch Penny for Your Soul. We're going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 in individual issues. and do it that way. He told me, you cannot do that because your attrition rates from one issue to the next will destroy you. I said, that's the regular market. This is not the same thing. Even though this was my first time coming into the space, I said, I don't see it the way you're seeing it. That you're talking about retail market. I agree with you in the retail market. I don't agree with you here. This is how I'm doing it. So
is that the whole thing where it's like the second issue sells less than the first issue?
Right, which happens all the time in comics. That's the retail market. You'll sell 1,000 of number 1 and 500 of number 2. It just happens.
It's a direct market.
Yeah, the direct market. So with us for Penny for Your Soul, we did about $16,000 on issue 1 with, I don't remember, 250 odd backers or something. I said, okay, we did it again. We did almost identical, 16,000 and some odd backers. The next one that we did, issue 3, we did $20,000. The issue 4, we did $25,000, and so on until we got to issue 7, and we were at $36,000. I said, fuck you, buddy. I told you we could do this. This is not the same system. And if you play it properly, this is how it works. And then the other time that I was told you can't do that was in 2020 when COVID was happening. Deep in the early days of COVID, the first quarter of COVID, I was going to launch Princesses versus Zombies in May. And everybody was telling me, you can't do that. You cannot do that. The world is on fire right now. Blah, 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 blah. I said, you watch me. And it was our biggest campaign of all time. 600 backers, bordering $40,000. Like, so I learned quickly that people will tell you things that is solely from their experience, and you have to take it with a grain of salt because that's their experience. Okay, I accept that's your experience. But if you have faith in your gut instinct on things, you sometimes have to just chase that. And I've chased the gut many times with I would say at least an 80% success rate. So just conviction in what you're doing, in your product, in your methodology. I think it's going to carry you a lot farther than worrying about what people might want to tell you about how to run your business.
Cool. Mr. Lanning, what are your thoughts?
I don't market, so I'm not really into. I don't see.
It could be any piece of advice that may in the creator sphere.
Well, I wouldn't say it's advice, but I see that it's a pattern of people out there trying to get publishers. I don't find publishers that important anymore. I really don't, especially when you can do it yourself. And that's the thing. I'm not chasing after a publisher because what I've seen so far as publishers are concerned, is they want you to put all in for them. And they might do something here, but they have a whole gamut of stuff that they have to do. And at the end of the day, it's about their name, not really you. And I don't see an exchange there. So I'm not interested in being with a publisher or seeking a publisher or anything like that anymore. So that's
unless your publisher
call that email.
Unless your publisher puts the image eye on your book, or a Dark Horse puts the Dark Horse logo on your book, or something along those lines, the rest of this stuff is pretty meaningless for you because you're still going to end up having to do it all yourself anyway.
Yeah. Well, I'm not. I honestly don't think the retail space is there, period, anymore either.
No. You're right. I agree with you.
So to me, that it becomes a middleman that's not really necessary if you're willing to do stuff yourself anyway. Now, will there become? Now, that's not saying that. I'm not saying not a distributor. I'm saying a publisher. That's the difference. Yeah, you have to set up a distributor and everything else, and there's going to be parts of that you're not going to want to do yourself. You're going to have to hire somebody out to do. But as far as I have seen, and this is no offense to anybody here, but what I have seen, and Marcus mentioned this earlier about some of these publishers that we've seen. And I've mentioned these publishers consistently on here. I do not know why JD keeps inviting me on because but when you look at certain publishers, constantly you see, these indie publishers. A lot of times these indie publishers that have a name, such as Scout Comics, I don't care. They don't
exist anymore. So
no, of course they don't. But they came out of somewhere else. They came out of other people who were taking other people for granted. And that's what the case is. If there's a publisher that has a name for themselves, there's chances are they were taking advantage of creatives down the line anyway. Stay the hell away from them. Stay away from. I used to work at Marvel. Stay the hell away from it. I'm telling you right now, because it's not going to end well at the end. And that's the case. I think as far as that's concerned, any advice that tells you to find a publisher, back off. That's just how
it's tough too, because it's in this space where we're at too, where we can do so much stuff. And when I get pitches and I get submissions, and we get a lot of them, and I go through a lot, and as I'm having advanced discussions, we all just talking to a creator the other day about this, and I asked him, like, have you tried taking this to Image? Have you tried taking it to Dark Horse? Not like, being shitty. I honestly think it's that good that if I was an editor at one of those places, I would have taken that book. And,
right.
Tried to get it greenlit. And, he was telling me experience, doing all that. And then he was asking me how I do things. I was like, if someone basically in this space and where we are now, for me, like I was saying before, I will run the campaigns for the creators. Like, I don't take money from the creators. I'll get their variant covers for them. I'll get their ISBNs. I'll get their book set up. I'll get all their stuff printed. In the case of a couple of creators, I'll book your events at Barnes and Nobles for you. I'll get all that set up. I'll get your inventory. I'll get your fucking banners. Whatever I need to do to be a partner with you in that respect, I'll take it on. But you're gonna get that at basically nobody else. Other folks are not going to be trying to do that same kind of. Some of them are going to try to.
Well, even Image is the same way. You're not going to get all that from Image either. At Image, you have to put out the money to make it. But the thing about the best kept secret about Image and Dark Horse and all of those is I don't give a crap how good your freaking independent book is. You can send it to them all day long. If you don't have a credit with somebody bigger beforehand, you send it to them, it's not going to get past the first thing. That slush pile phase that every publisher has or whatever, you got to get through one person that might like your book. You got to appeal to that one person. Why am I going to bother trying to appeal to one person to get to that slush pile when I can appeal to a whole audience out here that I'm looking for? I got to appeal. Let's say you do a superhero book. I got to appeal to the one guy that hates superhero books just to get past that slush pile. No, and that was a long time ago when I was a writer. I got over that shit too. It's like I've got, this is really good, but it's a little bit too descriptive for my taste, for your taste, but not necessarily the people on the other side of that. Not necessarily the people that read. You could read the same thing next month in a publication that has the same type of description or even more description, but somehow that person got through. And that's the problem that I have with publishers is trying to appeal to one person just to get through. And that's the deal. And for what? For a minimum returns. It blew my mind when I talked to an Image creator about how he needed to order more books to get out there to put on Amazon and stuff. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. You work for Image. Or Image or whatever is your publisher, but you're putting all this out, then what the fuck is the point of having Image except for you just want the name? It's just the name, and then you're not even selling that well. Mm-hmm. There is a small handful of Image books that actually sell well, and just like Tom said, it comes down to the Snyder book, the whatever, whoever, blah blah blah, because usually those people are found out through books like say like Batman or whatever the case. That look even. Like you take all the chumps from freaking Image, okay? These guys started off on other books. They weren't selling books because they were good. We know they were horrible writers. They all were, but it was because they were already known and established on established characters. And so, unless you want to spend time and years trying to break in writing for somebody else, there's no point in trying to go for a publisher. Just do the shit yourself. It's open up enough to do it. That's how I'm seeing it.
There you go.
All right. Fair enough. Fair enough. For myself, I think the one thing that I had one publisher tell me was he told me I should change the Oswald Chronicles title. He told me I should change this to like OZ or something. And I was like, yeah, this is the end of this conversation. Go fuck yourself. And I just kept it moving. And that guy is living his best life in obscurity, and I'm doing what I got to do. Right. So I think that's pretty much it. I mean, like, I don't know. There's been, various points where people have given me advice, and it's been a lot of ignoring it, So I do a lot of that. So it's just like Jay, I travel to the beat of my own drummer, right? And I follow my own advice a lot of the time. Not always right, but it works for me, So
I think one of the things people forget about those bigger companies, right, is a lot of them, unless they're the top tier, still have other jobs. They're teachers. They are real estate agents, right? They are, selling advertising.
Mhm.
Some of those who were in the heyday of the 90s and the early 2000s, not even working in comic books anymore, right? And these are the seats that so many newcoming creators, even current creators, right? They want those seats. They covered those spots. And many of them who are not there anymore can't do what we do.
Mhm.
Right? I mean, I mentioned the machine, right? Daphne mentioned the machine, but we built our own machine that we know how to function. We cover a lot of fucking aspects over here. That's so many of them, whether they're writer, artists, editors, they can't do. So, so many new creators need to take pride in that. We are very well rounded.
Oh,
Yes, we are.
exactly.
All the places that matter.
Yes.
Fucking love you, Red.
That's not a beer belly. That's an artist hump right there.
The artist hump is up here.
Well, that too.
I'll get
I'll go with the first one.
So Daphne, answer your question.
Well, the one thing that I kept hearing, that I was very uncritical about until I actually did it was, if you really want to make money on Kickstarter, you have to do a not safe for work project. It's like those are the books that make money on Kickstarter. If you make a not safe for work book, you're golden. So I did. I spent a year working on this project. And I even took some ideas from Tom where I made the book 16 pages. So and it's like, and it took me a year to do this project from beginning to end. Literally, it was almost like I launched the campaign almost a week to the day that I actually got the idea to do this. And what I learned is that, I've always kind of suspected this anyway, as someone who has done a lot of not safe for work stuff in the past, but or even currently, is that just because you're doing a not safe for work book doesn't mean anything. You still have to put the same amount of effort into creating that book, into marketing that book, as if you were doing your regular book. And even though this project, and I don't regret it at all. Even though this project did make good money on a 16-page book, in the end, I felt the effort wasn't worth what the advice was trying to tell. Like the difference in money that I made on that project, as opposed to like if I had just done another issue of Eagle Raven, it's like it really wasn't that big of a spread that was like, oh, they're right, I gotta continue doing this. It was more like, oh. It was very anticlimactic. Even though it's like I said, even though like I made like, I don't know, like $8,000 on a 16-page book. Actually, it was in the end a regular size because it was 2 issues. It was a 16-page book and then an 8-page book. I didn't feel that the spread between my regular books and doing an adult book with all the nude covers and the shit and the stupid title and everything, Because that was also the other thing too. It's like pretty much everything that everybody on Kickstarter would say. If you do this, do that, do the other thing. You need a stupid title. You need the porn. You need the variant covers. It's like everything that I heard I put into this campaign. And in the end, the difference I thought was minimal to my regular books, because in the end I still needed to promote the books and get the book out, and it's not like I had like these particular artists working on the covers. I did everything myself. So for those of you who think that, oh, just do a not safe for work book and it's easy money, no, it's not easy money. Yeah. It's like doing these types of books is just as much effort, if not more, because now you have the hurdles in the restrictions that come with selling a not safe for work book. Because I had a hell of a time trying to even do what little marketing I could, because most people couldn't even post the link. If they posted the link, Facebook flagged them for pornography. So my marketing was very limited because of that. So after that project, it's like no, it's not easier to do a not safe for work book. And it's like anybody who says that it's like, oh, that's easy money, probably has never done one before. And they're just saying that because they see, I don't know. It's like they see what makes kind of money on Kickstarter. Then it's like, look, even if you were to look at all the Not Safe for Work campaigns that on Kickstarter, again, the spread is really not that much. There's just as many Not Safe for Work books making $3,000. If not, they're more likely to make $3,000 as they are to make $10,000.
It's just like saying OnlyFans. You should just go do OnlyFans, Daphne. You'll make $1 million.
Right.
No, that's like the top 1%, and everyone else makes like $500 a month.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. It's like, and you know what? And this was something that, like, I've always had like people say, it's like, oh, just do porn. It's easy. Just do porn. It's easy. And it's like, no, it's not easy. It's the same effort as everything else. You're just doing porn. And that's in the end what I also learned from the Monsterotica BookCon, that it's like, yeah, I could do this, but it's like I'm competing with very established artists who have relationships with these authors, and I'm starting from zero. Me coming in with hot guy porn isn't going to guarantee anything for me at that convention. So it's like, so in the end, what I learned from this is that, like I said, is even though I don't regret doing that whole experiment, I love the book. I love everything that came out of that campaign that I did for that. In the end, what that taught me is that I just need to focus on what I should be doing and not worrying about all this gimmick shit that everybody thinks is your get rich quick scheme. And just look, let me just finish what I'm doing. And then if I feel like doing another Not Safe for Work book, I'll do that. But later, but I just really need to focus on what I'm doing now. Because like I said, the spread wasn't enough for me to go, I should do another one. It's like, no, it's just like, I should have done another issue of Eager Raven, the regular issue, But so that was the advice that I took uncritically.
But is that more regret from just not working on the stuff you really wanted to work on?
Well, no, because in the end, I did like the book that came out of this whole experiment. So I don't regret that. Mm-hmm. But, but like I said, it's like in the end, this is how I had to learn that the advice was bullshit.
Right. But let's say if the campaign
Jose's just salty that I made $8,000 on a 1960 book. Well,
sure.
She's calling you out, kid. She's calling you out.
Well, but the thing is, though, she wanted to make $10,000. If you had made $10,000, would it have flipped your opinion?
I would have put out probably another book faster.
Okay. All right.
You see, because that was also the whole point of that of the
But
experiment.
then if that second book had only made 10,500, how would you have felt that?
Well, the whole point was to get above 10,000.
Okay, but I'm saying
That
if you
was-
got that second book, and let's say it only made 10,000, again, would that still have been okay with you? Or would you
Well,
have been okay with that?
then we're talking about like hypothetically two $10,000 campaigns. Yeah, I think so.
You can say that now,
Right.
because I
Well-
guarantee you would have been saying I would have probably wanted to make 15,000 at that point.
Am I the only guy in the panel that hasn't broken 5 figures on a campaign?
Shut up. Yes.
That's okay. We haven't broken 5 figures. Well, I mean, if you count Tenchi, sure.
Yeah.
Right.
No, I
You know?
did. Yeah.
But on
Yeah,
you know, but the thing is though, the whole point of it's like, look, it's like, the point of the project was to take all this advice that everybody was like throwing from every corner of Kickstarter into one campaign to manufacture a $10,000 campaign.
Right.
Mhm.
But I think that's your error. You tried to manufacture.
Right, but that was
Yeah,
the point
manufacturer.
of it. Right,
know.
but that was the point of it, because that's what the advice was saying, that you can manufacture a $10,000 campaign by following this advice. That's why I'm saying
but
it
you
was
know.
an uncritical. Now I know that
Yeah.
it's nonsense.
Mm.
Now that I know that it's nonsense.
Come on. Hold on, Jay. Hold it. Because we gotta move on.
No,
We
I
gotta-
wanted to ask along this line. No,
Right, and Tom is up. You gotta ask his question.
motherfucker.
Why am I up? I thought it's Marcus's turn.
If you want to pass it on to Marcus, I'll pass it on to Marcus.
Yeah,
Marcus,
he said he had a question. Let him do his
go
question.
ahead.
Okay, yeah, like I was saying earlier, in this space where we see conventions are going through, I'm just going to say a reckoning, kind of right now for a lot of people. What do you think is the new wave, or at least a new avenue that creators and publishers can start exploring to re-engage with the audience that we have at these events? Whatever that looks like, whatever you feel might be a better alternative to what we're seeing right now. Definitely as the economy is kind of, taking a hit, as people are a lot tighter with their cash, and for good reason right now.
All right, cool. Jay, what are your thoughts?
Repeat that. I'm sorry.
Do you have any new ideas for any sort of events and convention alternatives that that comics can do in reaction to what we're experiencing right now with comic conventions?
Any other sort of
not being-
events? No. I don't know anything within the Venn diagram that can get this going. I mean, I have run a convention, right? Randy has run a convention. It's not fucking easy, bro. Right? It took us more than a year to plan a convention, and we still didn't even pull it off the right way. So trying to plan another event or try to find something out there, I don't know, dude. You know what I mean? Look at the people that are on the panel right now. There's not one person here that is younger than 30. Right? They're operating at a whole other fucking level.
I don't think it's.
I don't see the point of bringing that up. Why would you bring that up, man?
What are you trying to say, Jay?
That would be old or decrepit.
I only see that as an advantage, Jay.
Okay, how?
Because it takes a certain amount of years to realize that you're just everything that you know is wrong, and that you're absolutely stupid and you have to relearn everything.
Okay.
And that's usually around that 30 age.
Okay.
When you go,
Okay.
oh my goodness, maybe my parents were right after all. You know?
Right. That's the maturity. That's when maturity
Yeah.
kicks in, right?
Yeah.
But it's like, Marcus is asking, and I don't know, brother, because what works for what those in our age group, those that are doing this, I feel right now, we don't know how to do anything different, and we've tried to chase that difference for so long, we forget about what we're doing to begin with, or we lose time in doing what we love to do to begin with, right? And we don't end up doing more stuff that we should do, right? I want to go back to Ivan Reitman before he passed away, right? And they were like, what do you regret? And he's like, not doing more movies, right? He spent so much time in his career being picky and choosy and trying to do so many other things that all he wanted to do was make more movies. We're here because we love making comic books, right? We're not going to get rich at it. Obviously, we're not going to get rich at it. So why don't we just say fuck it and just focus on doing more fucking comic books, man? Right? I mean, we're going to get frustrated either fucking way. We're going to get pissed off at something that pops up along the line at some point or another. So just focus on the one thing that's making us fucking happy, and then it's just making the comic books and hanging out here with our people, talking shit, right? Because it's obviously not for marketing, right? We're sharing experiences, we're sharing troubles, maybe sharing those potholes that we need to stay away from.
I'm from Michigan. You can't avoid potholes.
Right. But this is more of a hangout where we bullshit, and we bullshit publicly than anything else. I look forward to this, not for the marketing aspect of it all, right? But to see the faces that I don't get to see every day because I'm locked in on a computer screen, or I'm stuck in traffic.
In your basement.
Hiding in the basement, right? So trying to find those other things, brother, it's just gonna drive us bananas, right? The only thing we're gonna catch with building another mousetrap is ourselves, bro.
I don't know about that, honestly.
Okay.
The thing I love about this industry is that it's always evolving and always changing. There's always something around the corner, and if you're looking hard enough, you might actually see it before it comes completely into view. Okay. I think we're seeing a big evolution with conventions, like what Marcus is saying. We're seeing so much of the attention get pulled away from comics itself and pulled into anime and anime voice actors and media actors and costumes and cosplay and all of this. But at the same time, I'm also seeing a lot of little one-day shows pop up. Some of the comic conventions, some of the conventions are starting to step back and focus on comics like they were meant to way back when, like the Charlotte Heroes Con and the Hall of Heroes Con that Brad mentioned in the chat. There are, tuned conventions. Plus, I think, especially for independent and alternative, you get more of a one-on-one when you're in a more quiet or more intimate area and setting. One-day shows, which are cheaper, table rates are cheaper, admission is cheaper, and you're actually able to talk to people more one-on-one. Or store signings, if you can find a comic shop that's agreeable to your product, that that would actually have you in to set up a table and talk about your stuff. Sometimes you make a lot more money at those events than you do doing a 3-day show, especially with the amount of overhead that you're staring at.
You're looking at like something just above the a SWAT meet level, right?
Even at a SWAT meet level. My most fun I ever had at shows were the shows that I put together at our local farmers market in our little community room, where we set up maybe 50 tables. Charged $50 a table, charged $5 to get in. And all of I was able to give, and I was doing this while I was doing that paper I talked about earlier. Anybody that worked on the paper got a free table, to show off their stuff, and that everybody was happy. There was a $5 admission fee. You got to come in and actually see people whose work that you had seen out there. So like, for example, Matt Fazell, who does Cynical Man. And if you don't know who Matt is, Matt's a genius with stick figures, and Cynical Man's worth your time to look up. I printed Matt ever since he'd allow me to print in the paper. He'd show up at all the shows, and he'd have a huge amount of people show up that he wouldn't normally catch at a larger show, stopping in and going, "Hey, I seen your Cynical Man in the paper. Your stuff's great. Let me buy your books." And it's that kind of an intimacy, one-on-one type thing. And I love that paper. I would still do that paper to this day if it was profitable. But there's got to be other ways of getting the art form and comics out there in front of people that don't involve a 3-day spectacle with cosplay arguments going on, and safe
Right.
spaces having to be made, and
Right.
and all
Bruce
of this.
Leroy, who shows up
Par-
at every event. Right?
Pardon?
And having
Leroy?
somebody like Bruce Leroy.
Bruce
You
Leroy.
almost- yeah, what's his name? Timac. He shows up at almost
Oh,
every
from The
event.
Last Dragon.
Yeah.
Oh, that,
Yeah,
that
yeah.
must be a regional thing. Yeah.
Right.
Oh yeah.
Oh, you mean as a guest?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't say that.
I haven't seen him
very much.
anyway.
Yeah, I haven't either.
Probably just East Coast thing.
It must be.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's and the sad thing is when you go and you look at that, everything all comes back to comics. You know, cosplay, even the anime voice actors and all manga and all of that all comes back to this art form and comics. And we need to look, I think, for a way to instill that back into the not and mainstream's a bad word and can be taken wrong, but we need to find a way to get the populace out there back into reading comics again, instead of having to fight to write or to read right to left and read anime.
Okay.
You know, it just doesn't surprise me, but dismays me that there aren't more great comics out there being looked at, you know, and that might all tie back into marketing, but there's some really good quality material coming out, better quality now than what was coming out 10, 15 years ago, that very few people are even looking at or paying attention to. And it's a sad thing when it comes to independent and alternative comics, especially.
All right, cool. Mr. Lanning, what are your thoughts?
I'm not I don't know why you put me on the spot all the time. Look, I'm not a convention person. I've made that very clear. But I will have to, I kind of echo Randy on this. I wouldn't even bother with the big conventions anymore. I really wouldn't. I think it works for Jay because you're kind of known in the New York setting now, right? Because you do pretty well, right?
I do.
But but I think the best thing to do is, as far as getting any con to work for you, like shout out to Rob Maltari. I know he kind of has an audience that he's built that comes and sees him.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's what the most important thing is of anything that you do as far as a convention is to find time to find the audience, to build the audience, because then you'll be successful at a convention. Somebody was just recently at one of the Michigan conventions, and Rob was there, and Rob was doing great. The other guy wasn't doing so great. And it's simply, of course, Rob's been around for a while. He's built his audience, and I think that's what it comes down to. As far as those conventions are concerned, you want people there that are going to come there to see you. Half the time, most, like 90% of them are there to see the Hobbits or Lou Ferrigno or whatever. I'm trying to get somebody to just
you're right.
Bruce
You're
Leroy,
right.
but yeah,
Mm-hmm.
So that so that's what it comes down to is those big conventions are now. That's Hollywood, man. Hollywood's got it. It's got it by the balls. You get there.
They barely have it anymore in a lot of respects.
There you go. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it can be done, but it can't be done by just continually going to a convention. It's got to be done outside of the conventions in order for a convention to be fruitful for you, I guess is what I'm saying.
Do you mean marketing?
Yes, but no, to in the same extent.
I got a scream like Pee-wee's Playhouse right there.
No, anyway.
You know, I got it.
What I mean is knowing your audience. I think
Yeah.
a lot of times you want your audience to be your customer, but I think it also helps to know who your audience is, what they'll like, whatever. Well, you said it before, Daphne. Who are you marketing to? That perfect person that buys your book, right? That's you want to know, where are they at? Where are they hanging out at? Are they don't go to comic book stores, so then why am I worried about going to comic book stores if that's not where I'm going to be marketing it? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You had the Pumpkin Planet that came out about a year ago, right? Is that the name of it, Marcus?
Yeah, Planet Pumpkin.
Planet Pumpkin, right? And I thought that would be really well for like the Adventure Time crowd or people who like that type of thing. But those people aren't really hanging out in comic book stores.
No.
Nope.
Yeah,
I took this to the Writers Festival, and this is a direct market hardcover version of that book that I was just looking to test out.
Yeah.
And gone.
Yeah. But it was a writers convention. Yeah.
Yep.
See, that's what I'm saying. It's the audience isn't. You just have to go where the audience is, and you have to build it there. That's where it comes down to. The bad thing about that is trying to find out where they're at, especially if you're over 30, like Rosario likes to remind everybody here. And so it becomes a little bit harder. And sometimes you might even your audience might even be into stuff that you're not into, but y'all have that one convergence, that one thing that connects you, and finding that is like, oh man, I could make a Minecraft reference, but everybody over here is over 30, so y'all wouldn't get it. But anyway, no. But it's hard to find. Yeah, right? It's hard to find.
What are you gonna say? It's like mining for diamonds
or iron. Yeah,
gotta do a lot of digging.
See, yes.
All right, cool. Tom,
we have a 1 day, what I call a paper show that runs in Detroit, where it's mostly comic dealers and people that deal in old papers and magazines and that. I've seen more comic dealers in that little VFW hall at once with a wider variety of stock and really great stuff, paperbacks and records and all of that, than I've seen at a lot of these 2 or 3 day shows that have been, the people around there are buying old paper, old comics, old paperbacks, and all of that, instead of looking for the next, where can I find a cosplay furry tale? Because
well, okay.
I need one to walk around the convention, or swords,
But let me say this also: don't dismiss your manga and your anime, because that could actually be a bridge too.
No, absolutely, yeah.
Well, that's what we're hoping with Tenchi, honestly.
Right.
Yeah.
Look,
there are huge audiences out there for that stuff. Yeah.
As far as Tenchi is concerned, this guy, he's like barely over 30. He's still a baby. But anyway, at work, he mentioned that Tenchi Muyo, or I'm not saying it right, but he mentioned that. Nothing about you. I've never said anything about you guys, and he was talking about it because we were talking about anime. So it came up. And that's what I'm saying. It carries that bridge. And yes, I did mention you and the Kickstarter afterwards. Don't worry. I did like, oh, look, there's the segue. But it happened naturally. And so I'm saying we just can't be, it might actually help for you to know, you might not be into manga and you might not be into anime, but it might actually help you to know what that is. Absolutely. To help you bridge that gap.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. There's a lot of real great classic stuff out there. You really have to wonder, if you look at like comic history, for example, how hard and deep the anime crowd would have become if comics had stepped up on their, especially corporate comics, not necessarily independent comics. If corporate comics had bothered to step their game up and actually be entertaining,
Well, they're not interested in entertaining. They're interested in money.
Well, they're not even interested in that most of the time anyway. They're just interested in trying to get
just
some new version of this icon.
I'm not saying that they're not interested in money. They're just
No,
it's just really
your executives.
It's just really funny how like manga is even the thorn in the side of editors at traditional publishing. Not even not just comics. Like even traditional publishers are like, we don't know why the kids are into this. And
you
they're
don't know why you're into manga. It's seriously anybody who can't figure out why kids like it. You're over 30, right?
Right.
That's what we're talking about.
That's not necessarily true, Tom. It's just that they're missing the message. They're cutting their nose off to spite their face, because the reason manga has got the ground that it's got is because it's great entertainment, and the kids have decided that it's great entertainment.
That's what I'm saying.
And they will look it up. That, like I keep telling everybody, you've got a whole probably 2 generations at this point of kids that find their entertainment reading against the Western grain and reading right to left in order to lose themselves in a story. And that says a lot to me. That's how badly and desperate this audience is to be entertained, that they're willing to go out of their way to read differently than what they were trained in school in order to be entertained. Or they're willing to put up with a bad English adaptation of a phenomenal anime, work.
Well, you know what?
just to lose themselves for, to be entertained.
Yeah, but we're
And
talking
that's
about this.
something corporate comics just can't seem to grasp.
But we're talking about this now. We're talking about manga and being over 30 and everything else like that. But in actuality, the manga phase is past too. You're actually now looking at webtoons and comic tunes and all this other independent stuff that's out there now.
A lot of that's extension of the manga form, though.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like adjacent.
Well,
Yeah,
no, some
pretty
of it
hardly
is as far-
yeah.
But then there's stuff that's just not that quality stuff at all.
Well, absolutely. There's always going to be crap on the market.
But you know what? It does play into, and if you think about it, and you'll know what I'm talking about, Randy. It plays into that disposable entertainment.
Yes,
because it's free. They can go to it online and they can find it, and they will pay for it. Because I don't believe that. I think the whole thing that if they can get it for free, they won't pay for it. That's a bullshit line. There you go, Daphne. That's the advice. That's the advice right there that I have constantly heard, and I have seen that disproven so many freaking times, so many times now, because I have seen webtoon comics make over $100,000 on their Kickstarter, and that you could go and read it offline.
Yeah.
That's the advice that I wish. I know the person who says it.
Yeah, if you give it
and he's
away for
got to
free,
stop.
no
He's
one
not
will
gonna
buy
get
it.
anywhere.
Yeah.
That's the advice. If you give it away for free,
Stefan Sejic about that with Sunstone.
yeah.
Laura Olympus. Yeah.
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 Look at
that's
that.
the case.
And that's,
Because
that's
there's
absolutely
always going
true.
to be an inert drive that this is not going to always be there, and I want to hold it in my hands.
Yep.
Free is marketing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
By the way, free is marketing. Here it is for free. Go try out this first part of it, and if you like it, there's a whole lot more that you can buy.
The dope boys know this. Know that well.
And I think one of the
whole
factors
industry in the U.S.
that have really built up manga over the years too is the value that they show. You pick up a Shonen Jump, it's big, it's thick, even though there's not a lot of story, but there is a lot of stories in it that they can keep following.
Yeah.
And the value that you get from a say like a My Hero Academia is so much thicker than the little collected 6-issue volumes that you see from the big corporate publishers that are sitting in the bookstores.
Even that, you could get a big old thick little manga like this big for $15, and they want to charge you $20 for five issues of
exactly
this
right
image comic.
Yep.
I don't care if it's printed on Fantastic Page. Don't get me wrong, it's nice, but I don't care. If I want it, I want it.
Mm-hmm. But I think there has to be formats out there at all levels. That there needs to be a $5 hard or thick paperback book that you can get at $5 and below. That's got comics in it.
All right,
that'll help your audience grow.
Gentlemen,
Again, marketing.
Yeah, marketing. So,
Yep.
Tom, what are your thoughts on the question?
Well, I'll say this. I've done 3 shows this year, and they've all been terrific. All better than last year. And the difference, though, and this actually comes back to the manga thing, is the value, right, in the thicker books. We are selling a shit ton of trade paperbacks and hardcovers and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like a metric ton of those things are now moving off the tables versus what it used to be. Let me buy this $30 variant cover or whatever. Now it's you have 5 volumes of Oz. I want all of it. Give it all to me right now. Yep. There is I've had this conversation with other artists and creators too, is there is a shift right now from the quote unquote collector base who is chasing those types of variants to I want to read this book.
Reader base.
And they want all of it. So the more that you have, whether it's a single trade paperback or a big omnibus or whatever, they are all in on that stuff. And I'm seeing it actively happening like in real time at these cons. Now, what's the question is what do we change? Nothing. What you have to change yourself is where you're going, like we just been talking about. Not all cons are one-to-one. New York Comic Con is not the same as Motor City, is not the same as anything else. You have to decide where you belong, where your product belongs, who's going to be at that con. Do you think you can sell to them? And the smaller shows, again, like we've talked about, the smaller shows, even if they're 2 or 3 day shows, just a smaller show gives you more opportunity to talk to people, get them to put the thing in their hand, let them ask questions. It's a more mellow environment. That's not a circus where there's just shit everywhere and they can't even focus on anything. So smaller shows are vitally important to creators. And wherever you live, there are probably 5 shows within 2 hours of you throughout the year. Go to all of them. But then it's the specifics. You got a horror book, you need to be at horror cons. Move yourself and your product to the places that you really can say, those are the people that would buy my book. That's the place you need to at least start and try and do that.
Yeah.
All right. Daphne, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, what's funny was that's the exact question that I had after I came back from Monsterotica. The whole thing about, what does an event at a convention mean, right? And everyone was saying, it's like, well, the convention is an event, but it's like, how are you going to get people to your table, and what is it that you have to do in order to engage that audience? The event, you're already at the event, so the trick is to engage the audience where you're at. And it's like, and going where your stuff is more likely to get that engagement. That's really the trick. Like look, I would love to sell my books at a Renaissance festival, right? I love it. I love the idea, but here, even just running a small convention in New York is just incredibly expensive. So that's kind of the thing. I'm sure that if we lived in in less expensive states, that maybe that option would be more readily available. I could consider let's get a booth at a Renaissance fair or something, or but that's just not viable. But yeah, it's my whole thing is that, okay, I have to find where the people I'm trying to sell to are at. I can't, comic book conventions are not as viable for me. I'm going to Baltimore at the end of the year, so maybe things have changed.
It's in December?
No, it's October.
Oh,
it's in October this year. And yeah, I'm going to see if have people changed from buying individual comics to moving on to trades because it's the better deal. And the other thing that I still have is I still have the digest size version of my trades that I tested at my printer to see whether a second format would make a difference. The thing that Randy keeps talking about, that it's that form, that maybe we should play around more with formatting to kind of attract the people who maybe oh, well, I'd buy that because it's smaller. Even at the book convention I was at, that was something that I was really thinking about. Okay, everyone was having deluxe editions of their books, with the sprayed edges and the foil stamping, but they still had their regular versions of the books too. So that's also another way that they were engaging more with their audience. The amount of authors who were really trying to push those deluxe editions on me was but it was just but they still had the regular editions for me to buy. So in terms of what are other the options, it's I don't know. I think it's going to require a little bit more creativity. It's what Tom says is if you're doing a horror book, why aren't you at horror conventions? We're doing fantasy books. Maybe we should go back to doing fantasy conventions again. It's maybe we should do book conventions. Maybe that's something that's another option for us, because at the convention that at Monsterotica, they were talking about how comics was becoming a thing in this circle, because authors were they're actually converting their books to webtoon. A lot of authors are doing that now, or it's they're commissioning artists to do mini comics of particular scenes in their book, and they're selling them as supplements. So the crossover is definitely there. It's just being able to take advantage of it. But it's probably not going to be in the spaces that we're so traditionally used to.
Right.
You know.
And that's a good observation.
Yeah. The only thing I have to add is, before COVID, I was hanging out with a guy, and what he was doing was he was doing little pop-up shows. So he would go down to like Chinatown here in, obviously in downtown Manhattan, and he would find little, or down in Soho, and he would find these empty stores, right? So it'd be a storefront that was empty for a few months, and he would go talk to the landlord. He would say, "Yo, can I rent it out for a day?" Right? And he would do a little pop-up, little artist pop-up thing. And they would have comic book guys and have people displaying their artwork. And, you put the word out, you get all these funky people coming inside, and, and he would make, and the thing is, it wasn't like a regular show where it starts at 10 and ends at 6. No, this was something that started probably at 2 in the afternoon and ran till 11 o'clock in the evening.
Yeah.
Right? Because it was more of an adult thing, because you have more bars around, and people would come in and they would just check out this stuff. And they'll be like, okay, they'll pick up a book or whatever, pick up some art. Right. And that was something that I was looking into. And like I said, it was before COVID. And it was something I was looking into, trying to come up with something. It's like, if we could get a small space, 30 tables, 40 tables, that sort of thing. Not something big. You understand? I didn't want to go for the large show, because the large show is very impersonal. Right. And it tends to be the thing where if you're renting a large space, you need to bring in a lot of income. So you're going to have to bring in a Power Ranger. You're going to have to bring in, Jay's favorite guy, from Enter the Dragon, or
Bruce Lee.
right. Bruce Leroy. Right. So, you're going to have to bring in those types of people and make up that kind of revenue. Right. But if you have a small place where, maybe it costs you $1,000 for the day, right? You get 20 tables in there, you charge everybody $60 a table. You walk out with a little small profit. And you can actually let people. Oh yeah, and that was the other thing. No, there was no fee to get in.
No fee.
Yeah.
There was no fee to get in, so everybody would just come in and just walk around. Like, okay, so they might pick up a few things. So that's the sort of thing that I was thinking about. And it's still something that's in the back of my head that sometimes haunts me. It's just all right, maybe not. But it's one of those things I think could be viable. Because I walk around, whether it be out here in Queens, or you go into the city and you see a lot of these empty storefronts, and they've been empty for a long time. And you're like, okay, what would it cost me to rent that for a day or two? Right. And you do a little pop up, and you do like, all right, and I probably know enough people locally that I could probably get the table sold.
Yeah.
I wouldn't invite Jay though.
It was a shame we weren't.
I
It
wouldn't
was a shame we weren't able to go to that. Was it that Pin and Patch show?
Yeah, there was a Pin and Patch show that happened out here about 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And
Yes, but there's a weird thing. It was a very weird setup. There were not balconies. They're like second floor atriums,
Right.
steps only, and a lot of people couldn't get to it. So there were a lot of complaints about the traffic flow of the event.
Right.
I mean, so goes life, right? They're gonna be complaints no matter where you go. You go to Manhattan, you go to New York Comic Con, there are complaints. You go to Chicago Comic Con, there are complaints. The complaints, the people complain.
The
Can't
thing
please
that-
everybody.
Yeah,
Right.
the thing that we were curious about, though, right, is the fact that like this show was like $5 if you bought the tickets in advance, but $20 at the door.
It was either 10,
Right.
maybe 10.
Right, but
There
it's
was
like,
something-
yeah, and then it's like, because Jose was curious about like how much the tables were, and this, like, how is it that you have this show that could charge like $10 for entry fee, right? And then you have Mocha, where it's like they charge you $40 at the door, and the tables are $500.
Right, and that's supposed to be a super independent show. That's not
Right,
even
and
an
that's supposed to
independent
be a
comic
show for independent art.
That's an alternative comic book show.
Yeah.
So it's even
So-
more obscure.
So yeah,
Because
so we were
Mocha-
kind
Mocha
of
is in-
wondering.
Mocha's in Manhattan, and the Pin and Patch convention is in the hood of the Brooklyn Queens border.
I thought this,
No,
no,
this
the
one was-
last
no,
one
this
was in
one-
Manhattan.
The last one was in Manhattan.
Oh, that was in Manhattan too.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was in Manhattan.
Around
Okay.
like 23rd Street, I think.
Oh, all right. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we couldn't go because we were negotiating a contract. But
Right. But yeah, so it's like, because again, that's the issue with Manhattan, though. Like, how is it that this show can be so inexpensive, but the second someone runs a comic book show, all of a sudden it's the most expensive thing that you could try to get into? Is that like a promoter thing? Is that like a space thing? Is that, like, that's the thing.
It's probably multiple things, but then it's also a lot of times because they've got Power Rangers there and shit like that, and they have to, bump everything because of that, as opposed to just saying we're doing a hyper-focused comic community show. Come on in and do it. They're like, well, no one cares about comics, so I got to bring Power Rangers and stuff, and then that jacks it all up.
Right.
But I'll tell you this: Dan Mendoza did a one-day show for his own brand here in Jackson, Michigan. Okay, he sold 200 tickets for people that actually came to his event. He sold another 150 tickets online for people that couldn't come, and they just bought the stuff that they had. And the people that were there, the 200 people that were there, were throwing money. They may as well have been pole dancers. They were throwing money on these guys, like, give me these books right now.
Cool. Yeah,
it was a hyper focused, obviously his brand, his creators, Still Ill Comics, Zombie Tramp, all that stuff. One day, and it was fantastic. And Brian Polito does the same thing with his Swornfest.
Well, you see, that's the thing. It's like, because that's also another thing too. When people say, "Oh, it's the economy's bad," the economy's bad. If you were at this convention that I was at, you would have never thought the economy was an issue. And that's the thing, because it's like, I mean, when people want something, they buy it.
That's it, exactly.
And it's like, and it doesn't matter whether it was books, whether it was artwork, whether it was like comics, because it's like, the usual suspects on Kickstarter, they have no problem making money. The only people in the end who complain about, oh, it's the economy, it's rough out there, are people like us. Because in the end, we're the ones who get shafted when the economy gets tough, because all the money goes to I know these people, or this is something that I really, really want. It's like, the economy didn't affect Transformers campaign.
That comes back to the creator economy. You have to make yourself the value, and then once you have the value, they want what you make.
Yep, and that's the tough thing too, because it's like, I was talking to this a little bit at the last con with Charlie Stickney, for initial, we all know Charlie at White Ash Comics. There's things like that, and we're seeing this sort of like attrition going on. First off, I'm going through Artist Alley, and I feel like I know 50% of like the local LA SoCal like creators out here, and I see like 2 of them in Artist Alley. By the time I got done with my panel midday Sunday, I mean, the place is so cleaned out that, like, at that point I could just walk up and talk to whatever celebrity I wanted to talk to. Most of them left. This is also going to be very show dependent. Some shows are going to do more than others. So I think for publishers that have a brand, for Tom, for people like Charlie with White Ash Comics, probably for me too. Like, I got a lot of stuff I could go out and display. I could go into places like C2E2 and San Diego Comic-Con and stuff like that, clean up pretty well. It gets harder in these situations for, smaller people, smaller publishers, people artists. And you go to these places now. Where's Image Comics at these places? Where's Dark Horse? Where's Boom?
Well, listen, none of these publishers are at cons, except for San Diego and New York. Publishers don't do cons.
No, they used to.
Yeah.
Yep, but now that's gone away. So
creator economy. They learned that the creators are out there promoting anyway, so we don't have to be there because all of our creators are there.
Which brings me to my thought, and what we've been touching on, is that, especially when I look at different forms of media where art is also commoditized. I feel like comics is a lot more commoditized than like some other things. But whether it's movies, music, books, and everything like that, like, where's comics equivalent of the Toronto Film Festival? Where's comics equivalent of South by Southwest? Where's our equivalent of Cannes? Where's our equivalent of
the Ringo Awards?
That's probably the closest thing that we have to it, but still existing in like that con space and everything like that. But even you go to those, if you been fortunate enough to be able to go to those places, like the entire vibe and it's like different. It's not nobody's out there like they're trying to market their movies, and you got independent films and things like that, maybe hoping to get scooped up by Netflix or something like that. But it's more about how you're engaging with the culture. And even I've seen it from my past and doing fine art. I'm fucking nobody artist, but I can build a event, and that's what I did. I had my own collective, and I used to go to gallery spaces. We did comic shops, so we were doing comic thing stuff at even that point in time too, things like that. And I fucking blow the place out. And I'm going on at the end of the show. People are selling their paintings and things like that. And I'm just doling out money to the gallery and business owners, for myself, for my cousin. I'm keeping.
Hey, quit cursing. That's my marketing shtick. You can't do that.
But I know it's like that space, and we have, I think, the void in these comic events where, yes, they become super broad. They encompass a lot of different stuff, and we're not coalescing it to be about culture, especially from the independent, state. There's starting to be more events. There's starting to be more small press and indie comic events and things like that. But I think if there is going to be an alternative or something like that, I think we have to get out of the mindset of like pure commoditization and everybody worrying and stressing about how much money they're making and everything. We have to make it focused. We have to make it affordable for people, both the people buying things and the people who are going to be tabling and things like that. There's something that we're missing in between all of that. And, I've seen recent examples and things like that where people I've been involved with, and I've seen those things like sell out. Like there's a need for people to engage with comics and art like that. And we don't have enough spaces to be able to do that. And as Daphne mentioned, some of these things now, the reason that we're seeing this comic crossover is because fandoms are getting involved with art. So if they're into, whether they're into furries, video games, manga, go to Tumblr and like search that thing. You're going to see page after page after page after page of original artwork, original mini comics, probably scrollable like webtoon style comics, all engaging that stuff. And that's bringing people into that. So there's opportunities for us to start wedging into these things and also create like a home base for it. But when is it going to come? Who's going to do it? Like, what should it look like? Those are questions I think about a lot that I don't know.
Jay will do it. He'll do it.
Yeah,
Jay will definitely do it. Hold on, Jay. Hold on.
I got to cut out here, guys.
You can stay for.
Hey, look at that.
Good night, everybody.
All right, Jay.
Jay had to go.
Jay had to go. I guess he had to go to the bathroom. But Randy,
wow.
real quick.
Yeah, he's probably crowding over there.
Yeah.
This is a look at the third volume cover for the Atlantean. That'll be we'll run the campaign for this probably mid-July. At this point, as soon as the book is done, we'll run the campaign for it over at fundmycomic.com. It's the characters from the Shadow Kingdom, real straightforward sword and sorcery work. King Kull is running around the kingdom with Brule and a few other folks looking for the race of shape-shifting lizard people and the adventures that they have there. So that's the third volume. That's the cover that Russ penciled that has painted over by Renzo. And just really proud of it. And it's turning out really good. So
someone had said that the cover reminded them of Joe Jusko, and now I can't unsee it.
Yeah, it's great stuff.
Yeah.
We're having him also paint a wraparound cover for an omnibus that we're looking at collecting a bunch of the Atlantean material in.
Yeah.
So it's really
when are you guys going to launch it?
Volume 3 is probably going to launch at in mid-July.
Okay, cool.
The omnibus will run after that. We're not sure exactly how much content is going to be in it because we've got the next couple of issues planned, and every volume of the Atlantean is a self-contained story, but it's all kind of strung together with their adventures as they're tracking down this race of lizard, shape-shifting lizard demons. So,
all right, cool. All right,
it's been fun and really proud of it. Anyway,
yeah, you should be. You should.
Yeah. But listen, we ran a little over. We chased Jay off, which is always a good thing.
Yeah,
so let's start with Marcus. Where can we find you and your work, sir?
OdysseyComics.com. It's that simple.
Cool. Randy.
Michael, thanks for the kind words. You can find that right now. You can get the first 2 volumes of the Atlantean and the first volume of the Atlantean, I should say. The second one will be available shortly. Any place where you can order books from the Ingram system, criticalblast.com, Barnes & Noble, Amazon, any of those places. You can get a number of different formats for the Shadow Kingdom, all of which we're very proud of. The first volume of Atlantean is available now. The second one we will have available publicly as soon as we know everybody who ordered it on the campaign has received their copy. Then it'll be out through Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and the Ingram ordering system. So, and then look for volume 3, middle of July, probably.
Nice. Mr. C.
You can check out my work on Magi's Grace Kickstarter happening right now.
There you go. That's right. Go get it. Tom.
BigDogInc.com. Go get your books. We're launching Penny for Your Soul's 15-year anniversary, June 21st. And then we're doing our first ever omnibus for The Legend of Oz: The Wicked West. That'll be part of our book fair campaign that we launch in August.
Cool.
Nice. All right, Daphne.
You can find me and my work at egoworks.com, EGOWORKS, where you can read both Eagle Raven and Tall Tales for free. And you can find all of my links to all of my social media as well. And make sure, as far as I know, to catch me and Nita tomorrow on our own show, the Rage Into the Vlogs show at 11 a.m., as long as I think neither of us have a scheduling conflict, so we should be okay.
Hey, Trico, good to see you, bud. Thanks for catching us live. He doesn't want to get up early in the morning enough to catch my other podcasts. So,
oh yeah, well that one's rough for most people.
We're archived all over the place, though. Indie Comics Network and Comic Book Black Belt, Randy Zim YouTube channel. Look for us, Comics by Night and Sunday Funnies. Thank you very much, Michael.
Cool. And
and Philbo, thank you.
You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, all those other places. Next Sunday we'll be back here. This Tuesday I'll be on with Rob Moltari with Mice and Wolves. And just don't forget, everybody, please check the show notes. All right, because all those show notes have all the links to all the various creators here. All these creators are making great books, so please click on those links, buy those books, right? Especially see Michael's book. His book is awesome. All right, so I'm just saying. Right? So go check out those books, and please remember, everyone, read more indie comics, especially ours. Have a good night, everyone. Thank you.
Take care.
Bye. Peace. Ciao.